Marriage of the Heart. We are so excited that you joined us tonight. We are here at the Den as normal.
Yes.
We're starting a little bit late, but that's okay. We are here. So
That's
don't think we wasn't showing up tonight. We are here. So we are broadcasting live.
Now, she took my line away. So I'm excited about our guest tonight. But we're broadcasting live from Studio 12 at the Den. Welcome home.
And speaking of home, thank you so much for welcoming us into your home. We are so excited whether you're watching via Facebook or whether you're listening in at denradio.fyi. We thank you so much for tuning in. And as you can see, we have special guests tonight. So we're super excited about our guests. But before we talk to our guests, we're going to tell you a little bit about what Bone to Bone Marriage of the Heart reference comes from Genesis 2:23 and 24.
And Adam said, "This is now bones of my bones and flesh of my flesh. And she would be called woman because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh."
Amen. And baby, I so enjoy being your flesh.
Stop it, girl.
We gonna keep it G-rated. We gonna keep it G-rated. But the second part of our Bone to Bone Marriage of the Heart comes from Matthew 6:21, which says, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also."
That's right.
And I love being your heart.
Hey, baby, you know what? I just got to tell you, this is
What's
a fact.
up, baby?
I'm glad to have you in my treasure box. And I think God give me the heart to just shine my gold in my treasure box, and you are worth more than gold.
Oh, thank you so much, baby. I appreciate it. But on Bone to Bone, one of our purposes is to encourage couples to remember that love is worth fighting for.
That's right.
We don't ever want to forget that. We don't ever want to forget that love is worth fighting for. So tonight, our topic, as you can see, is Anchored in Love. And we have our special guest here with us tonight, the Hogans. And we are so excited that they are here tonight.
Yes.
So I'm going to read a little bit about the Hogans so you'll know more about our friends like we already do. All right, y'all. All right. Otis and Paulette Hogan are natives of Stuttgart, Arkansas, and of course that's where I'm from. Actually, Otis and I live right next door to each other. We grew up on the same block. How about that? Just goes to show you, when you listen more, you'll find out on that block. God bless. So they became good friends in middle school. They were married in 1992 in the beautiful state of Hawaii. Yeah. Married for 24 years and about to celebrate 25. Yes. Remember what's today? December 6th.
In love tonight.
Yes. And so Otis is an ordained minister and serves as a pastor in Oceanside, California, and in Little Rock, Arkansas. And that Otis is the pastor, but we all know when the husband is the pastor, the wife is the pastor too. Don't get it twisted, because without the wife, we ain't gonna talk about it.
Otis, I think that really good help myself. Yes, I'm proud of you.
Yes. And so Otis is a U.S. Marine Corps vet and has also obtained his doctorate in law and is currently working for the state of Arkansas.
Amen.
Paulette served alongside Otis as in the women's ministry leader and as a gifted singer. Yes, she has a beautiful voice and a pianist leading praise and worship. Currently, Paulette is the founder and CEO of Queen P's Fashion Boutique.
Hello, Queen Tribe.
Here you go.
So all of y'all that's tuned in, yes, we love the bling. We love the bling and the fashion. And it's a full-service online boutique in Little Rock, Arkansas. Otis and Paulette currently resides in Pulaski County with their 12 and Talia, age 8. Welcome to
Bone to Bone.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes,
We are
excited.
so glad to have y'all. here. Told you a little bit about the Hogans, but now we're going to get into some topics. And the first topic of choice we're going to talk about is keeping your best friend your best friend.
Uh-oh.
So let's talk about that, Hogans.
Well, keeping your best friend, that is something that my wife and we've learned over the years. Instrumental in us keeping the closeness in our relationship. The closeness that we began and started out in the relationship. What I mean by that is, remember like when you first got married, like the first 2 weeks or the first month, nothing could separate you from your new spouse.
Right. Talk about that.
Yeah, come on.
During that period of time, there was no doubt in anybody's mind who was the closest person to me or my best friend.
And that's awesome.
And again, in 20 days, we would have been married 25 years.
Wow.
Keep in mind, we got married at the age of 21, and basically 11 years before that, we basically started becoming friends in middle school.
Yes. I remember that.
So it was during that time that our friendships was developing, and the thing is, I'm sure that Paulette can speak for herself, but during those grade years from 6th grade up until high school, I started to notice that as I looked around to see who was my best friend, there was no doubt that Paulette had become my best friend.
Come on.
Now, keep in mind, I still had male friends, as I played football, ran track, things of that nature. But the most intricate things I shared with Paulette. Not with my homeboy Anthony or Timothy. They all know who they are. Willis. They all started to tease me right around my senior year. Basically, they pretty much wouldn't ask me to go on outings or to the movies without basically throwing in a quip. I know you're going to want Paulette to come things of this nature.
Right.
So they can attest who my best friend was even during the dating years.
Wow.
And if there's any advice I can give to any couple that are just starting out in marriage or looking to be married,
Come on.
you got to realize that there is nothing wrong with your spouse being your best friend or your fiance being your best friend. Society tells you that your best friend, for the most part, has to be someone of your same sex. Like if you're a female, your best friend has to be a female.
No, that's not true.
And that's not the case. What you need to realize is that, in my opinion, your best friend should be friend number one.
That's right. There
And I've learned early on in my marriage that, even as Christ had his relationship with the disciples, he described his relationship and he called them friends. Even though he's the creator, as one part of the Trinity, he didn't treat them or call them, oh, you're my underlings. He, for the most part, wasn't looking at them as basically mere disciples. Society gave them those titles. He referred to them as friends. And if that relationship could be determined to be a friendship from our Creator in relation to us, or in this case, in relation to those that had followed Christ, then how much more of an honor to be able to call your spouse your friend.
So in other words, Otis, you really start studying her in the early stage of your friendship. Start getting to know her, know what she liked and what didn't like, and what to say to encourage her, to lift her up. So you start really getting to know her at a friend level, but you start studying her through this thing, didn't you? I mean,
exactly. That way, it's like, for the most part, Paulette can tell you, when we kind of first met, I started out basically just teasing her, and there's a saying that if a guy teases you, he probably really likes you.
Got a crush.
Exactly. So then we started talking, and that relationship began to grow. To make a long story short, my 10th grade year, I moved to Dallas to live with my biological father and his newlywed wife. I was gone for a year. By the time I moved back to Stuttgart from Dallas, Texas, the 11th grade year, the junior year of high school, Paulette was already dating someone else by that time.
Right.
So when I got back to Stuttgart that summer, like in July, and we started school in August, Paulette and I, we wasn't dating. We were just friends. And for like the that year, that's all we were, because a lot had changed over the last year and a half.
I'll tell you my perspective in a minute.
I'm about to get to that.
I looked at it.
I'm about to get to that. What was the things that you decide to allow him to come forward with his character, and what really allowed you to do that and say, well, I see something in him that. So what is that? What caused you to?
Here's what I looked at. What I really loved about him, and we all say that women only understand women, right? Sometimes we say that, but this guy right here, I could tell him anything from front to back, and you know how personal our issues can be. And so when I could tell him anything, and when he would listen, and he would, what do friends do? They nurture you.
Yes.
They say, okay, it's gonna be okay.
Yes.
And that's what I saw. I'm like, if he's a good friend like this,
come on now.
I wonder what kind of mate he will be, right?
Right.
And so that's what I really looked at when I saw him. I mean, when of course, you like each other. I like my girlfriends too. And they listen and they do all that, but he just took it an extra mile, and he just showed himself real. And I just appreciate all that he would just, whenever I needed him, even in the younger years of just being in high school. Now when he left in the 10th grade, I did have another boyfriend, but when that dude came back, he was thinking, man, okay, she's dating somebody. I told my friend, I'm like, he's back. I didn't know he came back. I was so excited to see him because of that relationship we built before he left.
That friendship level.
And we didn't talk that whole year. And it seemed like he never left.
Wow.
Just because of that bond that we had.
Awesome. That's
when
awesome.
we were in our younger years. So
that's
what I looked at.
Yeah. We on bone to bone.
That's what you look at when you're looking for a spouse. That's what you need to look for. How are they treating you as you're dating? Tell the camera.
Tell them young ladies out there
how they're treating you when you're dating, or how they're treating you as a best friend. We didn't think about. I liked him, but we didn't really think about dating for a long time. Who knows how to date in the 10th? I mean, all you do know is how to be friends. So when I looked at the qualities he has as being my friends, there for me, things that hurt me, things we could talk about, personal issues we could talk about, I was just so excited to have a friend like that. That's what moved us on into a relationship. When we got in the 11th grade, we finally started dating. But to tell you the truth, I was dating someone and dropped them like a hot potato.
Come on.
And I know, that may seem cruel, but it's just like when you find something good and it meshes and you mesh together, there's no stopping. There you go. There's no stopping that.
And what I want to add to that is that, shortly after that, Paul and I, we got married in less than 5 years. So at age 21, we got married. We was living in Hawaii at the time. I was still a Marine in the United States Marine Corps. And as we basically, just worked with other friends or other couples that was age,
right?
Because at the time I had been in the church I was a part of about 2 years at that time. And I remember I was looked at as a real go-getter, a person that was on fire for God. And I noticed that after about year 2, year 3, year 4 there, my pastor, as we would go out to eat with other couples, and the pastor, how when all the couples go out to eat to restaurants, pastor, he always used to say that, Otis, I like you and Paulette's marriage because I can tell you guys are truly friends. And I think that really helps out your marriage. He said that, and when he said that, I asked him what he meant by that. He said, well, as a pastor with a lot of young couples, because our church was full of military, and military marry young. So he had a church full of young couples, and with young people, comes problems with their relationship with one another, how they speak to one another, how they carry out their marriage. He said, I noticed that, a lot of other couples, I have to counsel a lot. But I noticed with you, I haven't had issues with you and your wife, and I think it all goes back to the point that you all are good friends. You're really friendly with one another. And I say that because what I learned over the years, keep in mind, I didn't know that we were being just the perfect friends for one another. Saw it as, okay, this is a relationship that everybody's marriage start off this way.
Right.
But then I started realizing about friendship and what are some of the hiccups that may take place in a marriage. I realized that, okay, my pastor told me that my wife and I are good friends, and that's why he think our marriage is going along so well, even at the earlier stage. Then I started to realize, what is he possibly meaning by we're good friends? And he said best friends. Then I started thinking about best friends. Think about your best friend when you were in grade school or in high school or even as an adult or just the last 5 years ago. Over the course of your life, that person, whoever filled that role, may have changed. Your best friend in high school probably wasn't your best friend when you were in college. You probably had another best friend. And as you got married and you had children, someone else filled that role. But think about it. A new person cannot become your best friend unless something happens to the previous relationship or the previous best friend. How do you lose a best friend? You lose a best friend in a number of ways. Either the communication ceases, you probably move away, or you start sharing intimate things about your life with another person. So the old best friend gets bumped out and a new one comes in. Same thing I feel happens in a lot of marriages, and I really believe that's why marriages don't last as long as they used to, because the couples in the marriage have been conditioned that it is okay for someone else to become your best friend instead of the best friend you have.
So what you're saying is disconnect the true friendship that you started with, because you started letting the different characters come in and start speaking to that, and you can get some strongholds, brought upon you that can break that. If you got a friend talking negative about his wife, and that's who you're gonna hang around, guess what? You're gonna probably start letting it catch a hold to you and go home and start saying negative things about her. So that disconnects you. So I understand what you're saying. With my wife and I'm gonna tell you something. This lady here, I know what she been through. So I couldn't listen to the outside. I had to let God direct me to love her, because I knew what she had been through. And I always say this, I had to take a journey through her mind. And the only way to heal all the scars she'd been through was with love. But we start as best friends too.
Exactly. And it's good that you said that, because like I said, many times this issue, it can be so subtle. It can be basically letting the pressure of society tells you that as a female, there are certain things that another woman would know better than telling your husband. Just talk to your sister girl about this. But what that does, it opens the door. Now all of a sudden, the most intimate secrets of her heart is being shared with another person that is not her spouse. So it will start like with something subtle. Then all of a sudden, she will speak to that female friend of hers about an issue that is not a girl-to-girl issue, that she could have easily spoken with me, but she's already started a pattern of speaking about secret or intimate things with another person than her spouse. So now she's sharing secrets that are not just girl thing secrets. And then what ended up happening is that best friend of hers, as I mentioned, as that journey, high school, or younger years and your middle years and your older years, when that best friend changes to another best friend, guess what? Now she shares those same things with that other person. So now that's two people that know intimate things about your spouse than I don't know. So that friendship that she would have told me at the beginning of our marriage, now 2 or 3 or 4 other people know those same intimate things, and I don't know. So right off the bat, she is conditioned with letting someone else know some things about her life that her very husband doesn't even know.
All right. So on that point, listen up, audience. So that's why it's so pivotal important that we be our spouse's best friend, because he just preached that thing.
Yes,
he
did.
Preached that about
he
how easily you can because the world do try to condition girls that that you're supposed to have best friends outside of your marriage, and that's who you talk to and all of that. And that was one of the things my husband said to me when we were dating, getting prepared to get married. he was like, I've never met a woman that don't have a lot of girlfriends.
Right.
You know, and I was like, no, I don't roll like that. I don't, you know, I have a small circle. I mean, it was maybe 2 people that I really called my girlfriends, but I never, you know, got that close where I felt like they would be closer to me than my spouse. So
Right.
that's where we go in
Right.
error in
Right.
marriages. So
Right.
that preached in itself.
Right.
But at that point, we're going to go ahead and take a break right quick. And you are tuned in to
Bone to Bone,
Marriage of the Heart. We'll be right
Right
back.
back.
Welcome back to Bone to Bone, Marriage of the Heart. Our topic of tonight is Anchored in Love. And if you have been watching, oh my God, we went to church. And I hope you do the replay. Please take the time. I know all my audience is not tuning in just right now because they're not finding us, but they're going to find us.
Right.
But if you would, everyone that is tuning in, go ahead and share it. Please share
Yes.
it. Share it. Because what we're talking about tonight, everybody needs to hear.
Yes. Especially
Whether
the
you're
one,
married,
yes.
you're dating, engaged,
Yes.
you need to hear it.
Yes.
So go ahead and share the page, and we'll appreciate it. Go ahead.
But I want to revisit one thing about the minister that was able to see the anointing on y'all relationship, and you know I thank God for that pastor, because he had to be in the vein with God.
Mm-hmm.
Because look at you now, 24 years, 25 coming up.
Right.
Come on,
Right.
Come
Amen.
on. So
He have
you know,
pulled that out of you.
Yes,
Yes.
So I'm proud of that pastor for being in the vein to see that, to be able to know the anointing on your life and y'all friendship, the cornerstone of your relationship. Now,
That's the
really,
name of the church.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like you said, when he said that, it basically encouraged me, because whether he knew it or not, he was in so many words telling me the key is keep her your best friend.
Right.
Wow.
That's what he was
Right.
telling. So I made an
Right.
attempt, and we both spoke of that to one another, and we deliberately decided that we were going to remain each other's
so
best
that
friend.
goes into the topic, the question.
Yes, the next subtopic is no retreat.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. What that means to you guys.
Okay, well, by this point, you all know that I'm a veteran. I was in the United States Marine Corps from 1989 to 1993. And when I think of retreat, I look at it as a battle, as a war. You know, the Bible say that, you know, we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Against
but we're fighting
principalities.
things that are in, you know, high principalities in other areas and other dimensions and realms. In a marriage, I feel that for any chance of a marriage to last, you're going to have to be willing to fight the battle and meet it head on.
All right, come on.
When I mean fight the battle, I mean if you have to get a little unconventional in how you fight the
Come
battle,
Come on, whatever it takes.
Yes.
whatever it takes.
Yes.
I remember when I was in the Marines, we was in basic training. And, you know, in basic training, they give you like this BFA you put on the nozzle, the nozzle, the top of your nozzle of your rifle that you have. It was an M16 service rifle. And you have blanks. So you basically do these exercises where they take half of the platoon and they split up half, and you basically have this mock war. Now they have paint guns, but in the 80s, Uncle Sam wasn't spending money like that. So you just had to bang bang, and if you aim at them, they supposed to fall.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we was dug in on this hillside out in California, and we had the aggressors who was coming up the hill to overtake our position. And we got like the little the fake smoke grenades that you throw down at them. And as you clearly pop out and surprise them and shoot them, the blank and the BFA keeps the fire from hitting them.
Okay.
If they see that you had them on target and they've been shot, they're supposed to fall. Well, the other side, they weren't being operative as they should. So when we clearly have the kill or the aim on them, they wouldn't fall. They'll just keep coming.
Okay.
So the rest of us, after complaining to the instructors who basically were saying, hey, it's a war. Don't call on us. Engage the target. Engage the enemy. So after they wouldn't fall, somebody took it upon themselves to say, well, okay, if they're not going to let that stop them, they started grabbing rocks and bricks from the hillside, throwing it at them. So before you know it, you got America's finest with their rifles thrown on the ground, and we're having a rock fight. We're throwing boards, tree limbs, rocks, everything down at them, because basically we were of the. Hey, we're going to win this battle, even if we have to get a little unconventional.
Come on.
Because they're not playing by the rules.
Come on.
Many times in life, you're going to see that on a spiritual realm, the enemy isn't fighting by the rules. He isn't playing by the rules. So you may have to get a little unconventional. In other words, you have to dig in and say, you know what, wife? The issue that we may be dealing with right now, it's not fair. The things that may have happened in your past that may kind of uprose in you as we have this disagreement, we're not going to let that affect us, because even though that may have happened when you were a child, it's not fair.
Ain't that's
it's not
awesome.
playing,
That's
but
awesome.
it's like life didn't treat you fairly. Life wasn't playing by the rules when you went through what you went through. But if you're going to have that attitude that, hey, we're not going to retreat, we're going to meet the issue head to head.
On. That's right.
We're not going to basically go into this mode whereas we don't see eye to eye, so here go your pillow for you to go sleep on the couch. We don't play any of that.
Come on.
You don't sleep,
That's
in
good.
the
That's
kids'
awesome.
room
That's
or out on the sofa,
That's right.
or she go to Aunt Bertha's house for the weekend because we can't get along.
Because that gives the devil a chance to come right in, sneak right in the back door on you.
It shows him that, you heard of the slogan, divide and conquer. She will always be at Aunt Bertha's house. That's all it took. Did the devil get us to argue, and she got her little bag, night bag to go spend at Aunt Bertha's house.
Right.
So you have to realize that in your marriage, if you condition yourself with your wife to say, hey, we are not going to basically let night fall over our anger. The Bible tells us that we're going to meet that issue even if we have to stay up to 2 o'clock.
Right.
I remember when I used to counsel young couples when we were out in Hawaii. It's funny that I say, in California, funny that I say young couples, because when we started that church, we was on 25.
Who was a young couple
So
too.
we had people in the church that
Right.
was older than us.
Right.
You
right.
know, and a lot of them close to our age. But I always used to tell them, and they used to make fun of me, whenever someone say, hey, we're going to go talk to pastor and somebody, and he said, oh, pastor going to make you wait at the door while she's not willing to come out the bathroom and all that. It was a standing joke, because one time I told him, I said, if you and your spouse are having an argument and you're not getting along, and she goes and just get in the car and lock the doors, I said, she need to wake up in the morning with you on that hood. In other words, you need to condition yourself really quick that, we're not just going to just retreat from the problem. And that's what a lot of couples I found they tend to do today. When they don't get along on an issue, they, instead of hitting it and fighting it head on, they retreat from it. They give each other the silent treatment. 2-3 days go by, and they never dealt with the issue. They're talking again because they're tired of the quietness in the home, but
Right.
not because they are willing to forgive
Right.
that person.
Wow. So being young as y'all was, Paulette, what did that make you feel like as a newly married woman and dealing with, he got the military mindset and
Yeah.
everything. How did that really just bless your marriage or make you, have some kind of thoughts like, oh, I don't know if I agree with this or disagree with that?
Well, for me, like here's the thing. Otis has always, and only because of my how I look at things, I do not like friction among us at all.
Okay.
At all. Although I like to be right all the time.
Of course.
You know?
What
I like to
woman
be right all the
don't?
time. Right. I like to be right all the time. I don't like friction among us. That just kills me. I cannot go to sleep. I cannot without solving that problem. I cannot
That's good.
go to sleep because that's just how emotional I get when it comes to us.
Yeah.
Now, as for that, Otis, he being in the military and being the way he is and how things are handled, he is always, like he said, even from high school dating and when we were early married, he has always looked at me, what's going on, what's happening, what's the deal with this, what's the deal with that. And a lot of the couples in the church saw that.
So attentive. He was attentive to your needs.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so there are some times now he can get drill sergeant on me.
Yeah.
You know?
I can only
But
imagine.
he could get drill sergeant on me. But it was a time where he needed to get drill sergeant,
Yeah.
although it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Although it did, but he was correct and right in
Okay.
which what he needed to be.
Wow.
And as a young woman growing up and being birthed into the ministry like we
Yes.
were, it was a lot of pressure on me because I had to share him,
Yeah.
you know, with the,
Oh,
and that,
that's-
you know,
that's
that's
key.
hard on a
Yes.
marriage
Yeah,
when you
that
really,
young,
that young, when
especially.
you have to share your
Wow.
husband with a lot of, so God really had to help me
Yeah.
and strengthen me and say, okay, God, you know, even though, because we were just so used to being all together all the time. And when I had to release some of that,
Yeah.
I was like, God, no. I don't
know
want
about
to do
this,
that.
Lord.
I don't want to do that. But as we start to go and as he started to minister we started to see lives change.
That's
Oh
awesome.
my God.
was so
God gave me a
rewarding.
new perspective
Hey.
on that.
That's great
You know?
that you was humble.
Yes.
God
gave me-
humbled you through that situation.
He did.
He really did.
Because I didn't
Yes.
want to give him up.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want him. I'm like, dude, you are in there.
don't
You
wanna
all
share.
I don't want to share. I was being a baby.
Yeah.
But I saw what God was doing in these young couples' lives because like he said, we see so many young couples that they jump into this thing and then they just don't know what to do. They have their first fight and they're gone,
Oh.
or they split,
Oh,
or they
speak
do
about that. Talk
you
about
know,
that.
You cannot. You have to. Like my husband said earlier, you can't. There's no retreat, y'all. You cannot just run over Aunt Susie's house and do what you
Come
need
on.
to do. You need to work it out because in the end, it will be worth it, and it will be a blessing for you to go ahead. He's worth the world to me. And I'm going to fight till I die,
Yeah.
you know,
And that's
for
the way it's
what God
supposed
has
to be.
blessed
Fight
me.
for it. Fight
you know,
for it. Yes.
you
That's
have
it.
to fight for it. And everybody look at us and they say, "Oh, things are going perfect." No, we're still after 24 years, God is still showing us things.
Exactly.
Amen.
But our hearts are open, and that's how we pray. God, show us.
Yeah.
God,
Show us
help
us.
us.
Yes.
So if after 24 years, God's still doing that, and He's showing us that,
He's gonna
what
continue
makes you
to.
think it's going to be in 2 years
Yeah.
and
That's
3
right.
years?
That's
But I can tell you this, y'all: when you obey
Obey.
God,
Anyway.
yes. When you obey God and you do and you respect your spouse and you hang in there and you fight, I promise you, God will bless you.
Yes.
I'm
will
a
bless you.
piggyback on that and say this. You got to learn how to disagree.
Yes.
You got to learn how
Yes.
to. You got to learn how to say, okay, I'm wrong. I'm right.
Right,
And learn how to
right.
do that. And say, okay, let's roll on.
Yeah,
keep,
yeah.
keep going because it is about it give you the longevity in your marriage.
Right.
You know, look where you are.
Right.
It took the valleys, loving each other through the valley, the peaks, and doing the same thing. So you got to learn how to disagree.
Right.
Learn how to
Right.
agree to disagree.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
him.
That's
My
what I'm
husband
saying.
He'll say,
Right.
"Baby, on this one, we
Yeah.
just gonna have to agree to this."
Disagree.
Right, right.
Yeah,
You know, and
Yeah.
some things are not that major that you got to keep pushing.
Exactly.
But you have to
Exactly.
learn
Yes.
each other. I used to always say with my husband when we first got married, my thing was, when I get upset and I get heated, give me a moment.
Yeah.
Don't keep on trying to push
Right.
the issue.
But see, I'm like you, Paulette. I'm like, I want to.
He
let's
always
talk.
wanted to solve
Right.
it right
Yeah.
then and there. And I was
Yeah,
like, babe, no.
that's me.
I have to pull away and I have to pray and I have to get myself together. Because if not, I'm going to say some words out this that I'm going to regret,
Right.
you're going to regret. Because I still was dealing with a lot of anger and hurt from things that had happened in my
Right.
past. So I purposely did not want my husband to experience the residue of the
Yes.
things from my past.
Right.
So I would
Right.
tell him, babe, don't take this personal. This has nothing to do with you. But when I say, let's not discuss this right now, let's step back, give me a minute, and then we can come visit that.
Exactly,
And
and
I
that's a
got
good
humble.
point.
I
And
got
that's a good
humble
point that
with
he
that.
mentioned that you guys learn how to disagree.
Oh, yeah.
because
We
that
have
is
to.
exactly what I picked up about Paulette. Because when we have a disagreement, as I explained the reasoning on why I feel I'm right, she learned to listen. So
Yes.
when there was other
Next
arguments
point.
that have come up, when there was other arguments that have come. Say, remember when we talked about how I had this problem before? You said this and acted like this, and I'm going to tell you now, this is the opposite right now of what's going on. And she basically used the same things that I've said.
Right.
That when I
Right.
thought about it, I would be like, well, yeah, you're right.
When- Yeah.
Let's practice that
Yes.
right now.
When
Yes.
the thing about I had to learn about him, when he has something in his mind, it is there. He has his reasoning and it is correct. So
You can't
I
tell him
learned
different.
exactly. And so I learned to say, okay, I learned from him, taught what he's been teaching me all over these years. But I let him, okay, let's go ahead. I'll let him go ahead and think that. But then after a while, I will come back. I wait. I don't push it because I know how he is when it comes to certain things. That's what you have to do. Compromise is so huge in your marriage. It is so
Talk
huge
about
in
it.
your
Come on.
marriage. There's some things in Otis I will never be able to change. Never, ever, ever. I don't care what I do. You know, it's nothing detrimental, but it's things pet peeve to me. But I won't be able to change that. So what do I have to do as a spouse, as a wife, with that? I compromise, and he does the same thing with me. There's he's like, okay, babe, geez, I don't, but he compromises with me, and that's
awesome.
how you build
That's-
into
that's-
a 24-year
awesome.
marriage.
That's
you
awesome.
have to compromise.
And we, like
You
I
know?
said, in 20 days, we would have been married 25 years.
All right, y'all, we on bone to bone, marriage to the heart now, and listen to this: 25 years coming up.
right.
Exactly. And I like what Tina was stating when she was saying that there's time when she.
That's all right. Look, we grew up together, so I'm
Okay.
gonna let him slide on calling
Okay.
me.
No, they just on
That's Tina, little Tina, like I said, we grew up.
I know, right?
We grew up as hoes, folks.
Right.
I was just teasing her before the show that I got to get used to this whole new name of yours. I still slip up and call her by her maiden name, her nickname, Tina, the whole nine yards. Okay, Katina.
That's all right.
Cause you know she's grown now, so she got to put the in there.
There you go.
Okay. Notice, like she said that she regrouped. Notice she said she regrouped. She didn't pack up and make her little night
There you
bag to go to mama's
That's
house.
a good point.
Right.
And
Right.
just to
Yeah.
make that analogy, I just got this, just this thought in my mind when she mentioned that. Many of you remember, in the 50s when America was at war with Korea in the Korean War. And we had this Marine general. He was basically going to advance, into Korea, but he noticed that to his flank, a very large army of China, soldiers from China, was basically going to attack them because they were going to call themselves going through China to get over to Korea. So for an offensive. But when that large, hit the mic there. But when that large group of soldiers from China started advancing towards them, the general took his men and started heading in an opposite direction. And the reporter there, back in the day, the reporter was on the field and they'll get the message back to the U.S. how the soldiers were doing in the war. The reporter asked him, "Sir, so are you retreating?" "No, I'm not retreating. I'm just advancing to the rear." So basically what he said is he's not running from the fight.
Right, come on.
He's basically regrouping to see another way to attack this thing, another way to fight his battle.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong, as Tina's saying, for the cool down period. You're not retreating.
And I've learned that.
Exactly.
I've learned
You're
that
just
over the
retreating
years. I
to the
have
real
learned.
to find out what is another way to go about this, or another a maneuver to take to advance the fight.
Yes.
So don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to have not to have a cool down period. I'm
Yes,
talking
I
about
learned that, though.
retreating where you have basically
I learned
threw
that.
your arms up in the air and say, "Hey, I'm not dealing with this."
Yes.
It's all about a mindset.
Yes.
And if your relationship is gonna last any time in this day and age, because the statistic that told you that half of marriages ends in divorce, guess what? Half of now over half ends in divorce as
And
well.
Arkansas is number 2 in the nation in divorces.
In divorce.
Yes.
Arkansas is number 2 in the United States.
Why can't we be number 2 in something good?
I know. But I just want to say to the young guys out there, if you're looking for a lady, start off with friends.
Yes.
Get to know that lady and let her get to know you, and study her. I always say that. Me and my wife always talk like this. We love study that young lady, and the young lady study him and know these things. And one other thing that my wife always point out when we on the show is that if you can look at this person and know them, and if something happened to you and you can't walk again and you can't do this, would this person be
Preach,
here
brother.
in your life
Exactly.
and take care of you to the fullest?
Right.
So those are things that you can find out early in the stage.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what the dating period is for. And I will
Yeah.
tell you this, and I've learned this, after my wife and I have been married some time, and I try to get this advice as much as I can. You do yourself and the person you're dating to date them already knowing that you would never have them as your spouse. That's the worst thing you can do to a person, because what you've just done, you just blocked her for that period of time for having an opportunity
The
to
real
meet
person.
the real person that is there for her, or the real person for you. Because think about it, a gentleman or a real classy lady isn't just gonna squeeze into you guys' relationship.
Come on.
Right.
They're not gonna do that.
Right.
If that guy is a gentleman, he's not just gonna be chasing around another couple, trying to squeeze in and pull her away and push him off to the side. A gentleman would not do that.
Yeah,
So basically, to the young woman, what you're doing is you're keeping the gentleman out of your life by basically keeping someone in your life that you knew that you wouldn't marry him if they paid you $1 million. Wow. You shouldn't be dating that
And
person.
another thing, Otis, you got to have confidence.
Right.
And see, you all have confidence in y'all marriage now. That she can go somewhere and you ain't got to worry about anything else but just praying for her and interceding for her that she come back home whole, instead of having that confidence that where you at? What are you doing? That type of thing. The bottom line, you have confidence in your marriage.
And that is perfect, because like you said, it is the confidence. It's the confidence built over the time of knowing that she's going to fight just as much for this
Thank you.
as I am. So
That's
if I know
awesome.
that she's going to fight for it as
That's
much as
awesome.
I am,
Yes.
she can push off any advances, no matter how they look, it doesn't matter.
There you go.
Because I
There you
remember...
go.
I'm going to put a plug in there. If you haven't shared this video, go ahead and share it, because we straight preaching tonight.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm
Keeping it real on
and if you do that, people will start to notice that.
Right.
When we first moved back here to Arkansas, I was employed as a parole officer, parole and probation officer. And parole and probation officer, they're like policemen. You got some that are really raunchy. They're talking, they make mention of things that you wonder why they're even bringing that up.
Right.
But I remember we were doing some training, and everybody was sitting around the table speaking about what celebrity they wish they could marry or have been married to.
And were they married?
Well, many of them was married, and they was talking about that. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around, and somebody said, "Oh, everybody at this table, if they had a chance to go out with J-Lo right now, they'll do it." And I noticed it was this one female. She stood up. She said, "Well, I know Otis wouldn't do that."
Wow.
That's awesome.
And when she said that, I mean, that was like
What a testimony.
spoke momentum
Yes.
to the relationship she knew that I had with my, and she never met my wife.
Wow.
all she did was been around the office, hear me talk to other people
Right.
about
Right.
my wife, like how
Power
beautiful
of
I
the
think
tongue.
she is, how well she can sing. I'm glad that I'm married to her.
Power
you
of
know,
the tongue.
and when she
That is
said
awesome.
that, you know how all the guys are. Oh no, I know he'll take Jill. I said, no, I won't.
Yeah, and
That's
that
the thing
go ahead,
we
baby.
talked about on the show
Yes.
before is that
Right.
if you truly are equally yoked to the person
Right.
you're supposed to be, if it's the God ordained man or woman of God for you,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys are putting God first, and you really just working at your marriage and doing all that you can in that marriage, there's not another man or another woman that can turn your head. And I
Right.
will sit here and say that.
Right.
You
Audience,
said
Yeah.
that.
look at this.
You
No
can't.
way.
I
Look
mean,
at
you're
this.
So secure
I don't
in
need
that.
that.
You're so secure.
Right.
You're so happy at home.
Yes.
That, like you were saying, they talking about celebrities. I hear a lot of even married women that would talk about crushes that they got on
Yeah.
Denzel or whatever. And
Right, yeah.
that is not my testimony. I'm like, baby, he can't. He can't come down. Yeah, it's like, you know, everybody has.
Down.
I love
You know,
it.
I'm
people
down.
People
I'm
look at
down.
the celebrities or
Yes.
whatever. That's TV, baby.
I'm-
You
hey,
looking at
hey,
TV.
exactly.
Hey, oh, I'm
This is
so
real
down. I
deal.
click clack too.
Exactly.
And the thing of it is, because I tell my husband this all the time, God created this man just for me.
Right. Yes.
And when you know that you're with a God ordained person, there is not another person that can turn your head,
and it
get
feels,
your attention, or
it
nothing.
feels so good.
It does.
To
See, we
know
being
when your
transparent,
spouse-
y'all.
Yeah, when your spouse leaves or he goes out of town on, I don't worry one ounce.
That's
That's awesome. That's
Not
awesome.
Don't-
one
you don't
bit.
worry about
And I
it.
thank God for that. That I don't, because I know we experienced a little issue. And I'm not going to go into that. I ain't going to be that transparent.
Yeah, that's all right.
But I automatically said, I know that ain't true. I know that's not true. I know it's not true.
Yeah.
And he looking at me, he said, well, whenever you find out, you need to slap whoever
Yeah.
said or whoever did.
Yeah, because
we were both.
because their other mindset that
we know that's not
it was
true.
coming from a spirit to say, well, you just don't know that your husband cheated. But all men cheat. They just
Yeah.
don't tell their wife.
Right.
And
In
this
other
is coming
words,
from a professional, a doctor who would
Yeah.
say
They're
that
speaking that over you.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
Because since the divorce rate is so high,
Right.
society thinks that everyone is cheating. They just haven't got divorced.
Right.
No, that's not the
Right.
case.
They just going
Right.
through the motion. But so
Exactly.
many
Yeah.
marriages are just going through the motion, and we talked about
Right.
that on the show last week. Is that we want to be that example that young people look and they want what we have. But so many
Yes.
people are going through the motion of marriage that they don't make it even look good.
Right.
And I just
Right.
want to give some shouts out in the midst of this. I hear some people saying, "Sugar Town, stand up!" Hey, we in the house. We in the house. No offense, baby.
No,
But,
I'm down.
yeah, everybody
I'm down
that's
with you.
sending the comments, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're so deep in conversation that I haven't even acknowledged. So let me go back and acknowledge some of the conversation. They're saying, I love those instructions. Y'all are preaching. Sugar Town, stand up. Hey, my people, God send me my husband. Keep praying, woman of God.
Amen. Yes.
Loving to see our people doing big things and speaking knowledge. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And it's some more up there, but I'm not gonna get it. Hey, Elder Gooden and Miss Wilson, everybody that we haven't acknowledged. I'm so sorry. We're just deep in conversation, and it's been so good
Yes,
that
yes.
I had to stay in the vein.
Yeah.
But our next subtopic of category is marry the person in front of you. So let's talk about that in our last few minutes that we have
Okay.
to talk about.
Okay, and before we begin, I just want to basically let everyone know that the things that we are speaking on, my wife and I today, is truly from the heart.
Oh yeah.
Amen.
And it's
Amen.
built over the love that we've had for each other for a long time.
Amen. Amen.
Like I was mentioning, her being my best friend, talking about the issue of we are taking the fight head on and not retreating. Many people look at us and they would think, well, that's easy to say because it seems like everything going good with you. You got this big house. You both got this good salary.
They don't
We got
understand
2.5
that.
kids. We got a son and a daughter. But what they don't know is that the first 13 years of our marriage, my wife couldn't get pregnant.
Right.
So for 13 years, we're married. We're preaching to a group of young couples
Rabbits.
in our church.
Babies all over.
They got babies born every other month.
Yeah.
I mean, it's goo goo gaga forever in the church.
Right.
And here's my wife sitting there. She can't have a kid. So
Keep it
at the same
real.
time, we're having issues. We're having battles.
Yeah.
And with my wife, it's easy for her to have the mindset that, oh, they think they can just intercede or just interrupt our life because we don't have a family because it's just two of us. Anytime you have a problem, you can just come over to the house or call my husband and he's out. So we had reason for there to be some fights that could have really basically drew a wedge in our relationship. And we was able to have and keep the mindset that no, when there's problems and issues, we're still going to fight because there's problems when you're dealing with that.
You know what? One thing about this, Otis, y'all relationship, I can say this, man. By sitting here listening to the story, the awesome stories and things that y'all have mended y'all relationship, is that one great thing is that you chase God more than you chase her.
Yeah.
First of
Exactly.
all.
That's it.
And then vice versa. And that's the thing, that you love each other through Christ.
Right.
That's the main connection through it all, that you're chasing the Father first. And then he teaches you how to love each other
Yes.
to the purest.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And it has a lot to go, into what the topic we're going into now, marry the person, in front of you. And if you're already married, remember you married the person that was in front of you. It's great that you mentioned that, because even though me and Paulette, we knew each other, dated, like if you want to call it that, in grade school, and then in high school.
Look, y'all dated. Don't be playing. and it blesses me that I can sit here and I can say I'm a witness to this, because I've known both of them all of those years, because I knew Otis from growing up. Like I said, we lived right next door to each other when we were little bitty kids. And then I met Paulette later on in middle school or junior high. I was in junior high. And we was in choir together. So I've known these two for a long time, and we've connected and stayed friends all these years. We they went different ways and we went different ways, but we came back together. But to say and to see the results of what God has done, and the center of it all is God.
Right.
Yes.
If you notice the
Hallelujah.
conversations, if it wasn't for God, we wouldn't be able to sit here and share these conversations.
That's right.
So go ahead and talk about marrying the person in front of you.
And like with my wife and I, we knew each other all these years, but what a lot of people don't realize is we didn't set a marriage date. We did not get married until after we were both after we had both viewed each other as being on fire for God.
Right.
At the time we got married, we were leaders in the church at that point. What I mean by that is, by the time we got married, there was no doubt in Paulette's mind that, hey, this is the person who's really after the heart of God. When I married her, I had no doubt that she was really after the heart of God, because I knew that if she wanted to please God and I married her, that's going to do more to her psyche to stay faithful to me than just my good looks that I thought I've had.
There you go.
Because regardless of what anybody say,
Although you
someone
do look good,
else,
baby, now.
someone else will look better in a different way.
Yes.
A question to you, Otis, is which comes first, your marriage or your ministry?
Well, you got to realize, when you get married, if you truly believe that God gave you that person to be your mate, and that once you choose to get married, you become one.
Come on, bone to
Basically, at that point, my wife is before the ministry. Now, keep in mind what I'm saying about that. Let's say, as a pastor, and as you read in Titus, I really believe that the way I carry myself as a spouse, to me, that can disqualify me from the ministry.
Come on.
So if you look at it in that perspective, my ministry can be first if I throw my wife to the side. Because without her, there is no ministry. Exactly.
Like the church.
And the worst thing that I hate hearing is when the guy said, "Oh, she won't submit." Well, the question is, she is to submit unto the love that you have for her. So if you don't have the love, forget the submitting part. The Bible is telling her to submit to the love that you have and you show her. So when you look at it that way, of course, the wife comes first, because the ministry, the relationship with your wife or your spouse is basically what the foundation of that ministry is going to be on. Because, as they say, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
And don't confuse it with putting God first.
Exactly.
Ministry is different than God. So I just wanted to get that out there, because God is number one in our life.
Yes.
Then it's us, and then it's the ministry. Because like my husband said, without us, there is no ministry.
There you go.
If you're married.
Yes.
Exactly.
You know,
Yes.
because
True.
we are the ministry.
That
you know what
is.
I'm saying?
That is.
So-
And that's what it's all about. So if
Good.
you're asking me who comes first, her or
Good,
God,
baby.
then yes, it is God.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the ministry,
Right.
don't look at the ministry as replacing God. And sometimes that's what people do. Because you ever see anybody get a ministry, then all of a sudden it's not like they're worshiping God anymore. It's more like they're worshiping the ministry.
Right.
There you go.
They like the title. And the problem with that is when there becomes a reason for you to step down, you have identified that ministry with God. So you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to leave God and let this ministry go. Well, based on your lifestyle, you probably
Lifestyle.
need to be far away from that
Lifestyle.
ministry.
Right.
That's why.
Because if your lifestyle turns away, then don't think that, oh, God is going to continue to bless it because you holding on to it because you're loyal to God. No. The ministry isn't God.
That's it.
Right.
The ministry is the work that he's chosen you to basically reach other people for him, but it's not
Right.
God.
Right.
So with that aspect, yes, the marriage comes before the ministry. Now it doesn't come before God, but if you think about your marriage, it's supposed to be ordained by God. And if the devil
right.
got you to believe that it's not, then you're halfway defeated
And see,
already.
that goes back to that
That's
pastor,
deep.
man. Like I said, it goes back to him to be able to see that you were living, you was making that church work, both of you, and he could see that.
Right.
So that's why he could see the anointing over your life, which God anoints a marriage. He
Right.
believing that what is he
Right.
supposed to come back? We supposed to be like a bride unto him.
right.
So he anoints that situation. So I really appreciate you all coming on the show and
Yes.
sharing this,
Oh my God.
because the
That's
young
so
couples
good.
that is married
Awesome.
and the ones that's trying to date,
Yes.
they need to hear this.
Yes.
We need to get these numbers down.
Yes. Yes.
Get the
That
of
is
divorces,
good.
yes, and
Yes.
and then start right here on Bone to Bone, Married to the
Yes.
Heart.
Yes.
That's why we having couples
Exactly.
like you here to
Yes.
And marry the person, like I said, marry the person in front of you, not the person you're hoping to change him to or her to one day.
That's
Right.
another show. Oh,
Yes,
That's
because
another
when you
show.
marry the one in front of you, you've already made a decision that it's death do you part if she never changes from the day I married her. Some people marry, oh, I'm gonna change. You're a little rough around the edges right now, but by the time you're 1 year, 2, I help them.
Whatever. We got a few more questions we got to get into. I know we're pressed for time right now, but the question is, explain what submission is. I'm gonna get the male's perspective on that, and then the women.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
To me, submission would be like if we ever get in an issue where we want to know, okay, if I think that she should submit. Submission to me is basically making a decision that when we both disagree to move forward, we have to go off of one person's idea of what the direction we should go. Like for instance, I feel that in your marriage, you should treat your wife as an equal. You know, God created her from your rib, not from your foot for you to walk all over.
Right, come on.
You know what I mean? He didn't take a
What
bone
is
from my
real?
head for her to rule all over me and push me to the side.
Right.
But we ought to be helpmates to one another.
Yes, yes.
So with that being said, anybody knows that in any scenario, there are going to be instances where someone going to have to take the lead. So when there's a time when we both disagree,
Yeah.
but to move forward, we have to go off of one of our decisions, even though they may be different. Submission is basically one person loving the other enough to say, you know what? We're going to go ahead and go on your lead with what you think is what we should do. We need to do that. And that may not always be what I think.
And I'm
all
gonna
the
say
time.
one word. Oh, trust.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When you marry that person in front of you, doubt, leave. Whether she make the decision to go this direction or take this exit, or you make that. But it's about trust, and the trust comes through Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
That numbs you to the world's decision on your trust about your spouse.
Right, right.
Because he know
That's
how
good.
to give it to you. He is the love. He is love. He
Right.
created us. So
And from
trust.
a woman perspective. of
Oh, well,
submission.
no, we didn't ask y'all. Let me ask y'all. Let me ask y'all. What is the ladies' perspective of
It
this?
is so like God that I was just doing the study in Genesis and basically reading the part about God giving Adam a helpmeet. And I really did a lot of research and study on that, and God just really opened my eyes. So it's funny that this came up.
She
But-
did.
But
Yeah.
as I was studying it, God revealed that to me. First of all, like Otis said earlier, that God created woman out of a rib from Adam. And if you look back in Genesis, it said God created male and female at the same time, right? So that rules all that saying the man is the head and the man is this, the man is that. They were both created at the same time. He actually breathed into the nostrils and created Adam. And then later took created got the rib. I'm gonna get it together. Got the rib and created Adam. Yeah, I'm excited. But when I was studying about what a helpmeet is to help. So the man can be the helpmeet and the woman is the helpmeet too.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And the helpmeet is to help meet that need. So say my husband cannot have babies.
Nope.
Right.
So
Nope.
that's one of my
This on
my
TV.
areas.
Right.
You know, that's an area that the woman is to help the man. Okay, say that, and it's different in every marriage. What you got to realize, when God equally yoke you, he yokes you with the person you're ordained to be with. So where my husband is weak, I may be stronger. Where I may be weak, he may be stronger. And so what I learned in studying that about the helpmeet, basically that helpmeet is to meet whatever need he has. So wherever he needs me to meet,
Yeah.
you know, to
Come
step
to
in the gap,
Yeah.
to
Come to
fill
me,
in that
baby. Come
gap.
to me.
That's what I'm there for. And so we get it so twisted. And then, you know, at the fall, when Adam and Eve did sin, it kind of changed the dynamics of where a man was like just, you know, just running wild and doing whatever he could do far as what God allowed at the time. And then when the fall happened, all that kind of changed. But that's more deeper into my conversation. But my main point is to talk about what a helpmeet is. And when I did that research, I really realized the full extent of what that means. And it basically means I'm supposed to meet his need and he's supposed to meet mine. So it goes back to what Paulette was saying about compromising.
Right.
No one person is always right.
Right.
You have to learn to compromise and just meet that person need at that time.
Yes.
Right.
Whether it's dealing with the kids, the finance, or it's just dealing with you personal, whatever it takes to meet that person need. Because what we don't want in marriage is that person to go outside the marriage for nothing.
Yes.
Nothing.
Whether it's advice,
Yes.
whether it's companionship, whether
Yes.
it's money, whatever it is, the need should be met within that husband or wife. That nothing can interrupt it. Nothing can get in the middle of it. Nothing can break the flow of that marriage. Nothing can break what God put together. So to meet that need, you have to tune in and know your spouse.
Right.
So if you know your spouse, my husband know me in and out. He knows what I
studied
like.
that.
He knows what I don't like.
Come
He
on,
knows
sis.
what make me hurt.
Yes.
He knows what makes me cry. He knows what makes me happy or
Yes.
sad.
Right.
He studied me. So he knows those things. So he knows how to meet my need. And I know him in and out.
Yes.
You know, I know all his favorites. I know what he like, what he don't like, and all those things. So when your whole goal in life is to meet the need of your spouse, then we're doing what God ordained us to do.
And just to add to that, I know Paulette's going to give
Go
her
ahead.
definition. Continue
Y'all
of
go
it.
ahead. I don't have to take a
Notice like she asked about
ahead,
submission.
baby.
You know,
Yes.
before in scripture, before God tell the woman to submit to the husband, He first instructed the man to love the wife as He
God
loved the church.
That's
And
it.
remember, the church is the people. He loved the church and the people so much that He sent His only begotten
Only
Son
son.
Come on.
Only
to
begotten
die.
son.
In other
Right.
words, God died for us. He went through the pain and felt it for us. And
Oh, yes.
as He instructed the man to love her that way, then He tells her to submit unto the man. So He's basically telling her and advising her to submit, unto the love that is being shown to her.
Exactly.
So the quicker we as men look at it that way, we won't misinterpret it as meaning I always have the final say.
That's
Right.
right.
Because
Right.
think about it, like
Right.
what
Katina.
Katina was saying. She was saying
Get it
that
out,
she knows her husband.
Yes, exactly.
If you are married, husband and wife, and you flunk math every year in high school, you may not be the one that need to be checking on
There
the
you
balance
go.
of the checkbook.
There you
Right.
go.
There you go.
Or there's going to be a lot of bounce
Good
checks in
example.
that house.
Right.
Meet the need.
And
Whatever
your wife
it
made
is.
straight A's. You know what I
Yes.
mean? She's
Right.
the business major.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
maybe she need to be the one to say, okay, babe, when we go to the grocery store, I'm going to pick the food out because I know
There
what
you
we got
go.
money to
And
buy.
I'm
There
gonna tell
you
you another
go.
thing. That
Yes.
this I better stop saying I think I'm
You can say, oh.
okay.
Yeah.
One other thing that gets us, and I'm not talking about you and I, but men in general, is that we don't know how to humble ourselves for that same condition
Exactly.
that you just said. If I don't know how to balance the book right, be humble enough to let your helpmate deal with that if they good at that. And she don't mow the yard at all.
That's right. And will not.
But I don't want her to because I deal with that part.
Exactly.
So it's all about humbling yourself to your bone, to your flesh, the one you done married, the one in front of you. Humble yourself to them, and this thing, the longevity of your marriage will every year be springtime for.
And the thing about go ahead. Yeah.
Just because of what he just said, he had to learn that about me because there's something he wanted to. Okay, I am the man, and I just want to do everything for you.
Yeah,
you don't have to do nothing.
Exactly.
I'm like, dude, I'm too independent for that.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I have things that I got to, but he was like, no, babe,
That's for another show.
You know, he's like, no, babe, no. And I'm like, honey, and he truly had to get the mindset. My wife, and after I took over that certain area, my wife's the bum. What am I thinking? What am I doing?
Exactly. He had to humble himself.
She's great with organization.
Exactly.
And I realized that, she has a tact for that. So there's things that I've learned. And just like I said, in our marriage, I began to learn that, you know what, she is better than I at this. So,
and the thing of it is, though, in a marriage, if you keep your business in your house, in your marriage, don't nobody know who doing what anyway. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're supposed to be helpers one to another, help me to each other. And so if you keep your business in your house and she keeps your business, it don't matter who's doing what. Because you know, men would tease men or whatever if they think they know your business and say, she wearing the pants or whatever.
Exactly.
But if you ain't out putting your business out there, they don't know who doing what. And so that goes back to what you were saying when your wife is your best friend and when your husband is your best friend. If it's your best friend and you're not sharing that personal stuff outside, can't nobody say. All they can do is guess what's going on in your household.
And it's good that you mentioned that, Katina, because when you like the segment today is being anchored in love. When people see that you both love each other, it's harder for that mindset to enter their minds. A lot of times when they say that, many times they're basing it off of the fact that she treats him like a dog and he just goes behind her like a little puppy. Basically what they're saying in so many words is that they don't see the same love and feeling from her towards him like they probably see from him towards her, and they look at that as weakness. They look at that oh, she's wearing the pants. So that's why it's important for the people on the outside to see the love that you have for one another, and for them to see it exactly. And it needs to be genuine. You don't tell everybody like when you fuss and argue like, Paulette tell her girlfriend, this is a jerk. And we may be arguing or going through a period of time. Well, guess what? When I get it right to her friends, I'm still the jerk. She's loving me. She cracking my toes and everything because she's over it. But to them, I'm still a jerk because you shouldn't be airing that out to them in the first place.
And see, that's where we need to go back to what the older people used to say. What goes on in the house stays in the house. I mean, back then, a lot of things went on or whatever that needed to be put out. But as far as marriage, if you keep those things within the marriage, not sharing your business, then all people can do is sit back and speculate. They can assume this or assume that. But oh my God, this has been an amazing show, and I know we are past our time.
I know we are.
But it has been amazing, and I want everyone listening, please go and share this video, because even though we finna go off the air, they still can go back and look at this, because this has been amazing.
Okay, but we do need to talk about sponsors.
Okay, let's get to that.
we need to talk about sponsors. We need sponsors, y'all, to stay on the air. For Bone to Bone, Marriage of the Heart. We want to come to the audience exactly the way we came tonight. Transparent with real news about what marriages should be like. And everything is, we know there's breakdowns on some things, but when you got an awesome marriage, you can make it through anything. And it'll give you that fight to know that you can set the precedent. Like Otis said, when my wife and I are out in public, they know we are for real. Everybody that knows us know that it's all, I'm gonna show my wife love, whether it's at home or out there,
That's
I'm at home. I've been
And I
to
love
say
that
about
about
that
y'all.
part.
We want to be like y'all when we
Yeah.
grow up.
And keep in mind,
That was baby.
we went on a date night and we shared with them back in the summertime.
Oh,
They don't know this, but when we got in the car, we're looking at it like, babe, we've been married 25 years, and I think they had more date nights than we did. They even won every Friday. So we're like, okay, now we need to start doing this more often. So
and that's what it's
That's
all about.
fine.
That's what it's all
But
about.
see, that's
That
what
is
it's
the
about.
thing.
It's
Yes.
about, like when we just had the couples date night, the married couples date night.
Yeah.
It's about pulling from every couple.
Yeah.
Everybody
Gleaning
has
from
something
them.
to
Yeah.
share. Whether
Yeah.
you've been married 2 years or you've been married 50 years,
Right.
everyone has something to share, and
yes.
you can learn from each other, and
Yes.
that's what it's all
Yes.
about.
Awesome.
But back to sponsorship.
Sponsorship, yes.
So with the sponsorship, you guys, we would love for you guys to do sponsorship. It benefits us to stay on the air, and it
Yes.
benefits you that you can get commercial slots, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever amount you desire to get, and it will advertise your business, your ministry, just you that want to talk, whatever it is that you want to advertise. That's your time to do that advertising. So we definitely need you to come on board and do sponsorships. Also, we will not have a married couples date night in December. Our next one will be in January. We will put all that information out on the next show, and we will not
Please
be
join
on the
us.
air. We will not be on the air next week because it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We know y'all love us, but we're going to be with our family, and
That's
we want
right.
you to be with y'all. So those are the announcements. Thank you so much for tuning in to Bone Marriage of the Heart. Thank our amazing guests.
you.
Oh
it's a
my
pleasure
God.
to be here.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Love
We
y'all.
enjoyed y'all so much. It
Yes,
was
we
so
did.
good tonight, and we're
Yes.
going to share it.
Please
We
share
want
this
y'all to
video.
share it. Yes.
Please.
It has been the bomb. We
Yes,
have enjoyed
yes.
it, and we hope it has ministered. I know we laughed and we got serious and we laughed and all of that, but we know it's so many nuggets,
But
in,
we are
nuggets in here.
happy married couples.
Yes. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So thank y'all so much for tuning in to
To
Bone
Bone to Bone,
Marriage of the Heart.
Heart.
Good night.